The college basketball experience Moneyline Mac Top 25 edition for Monday, February the 3rd edition on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Set up with that promo code TCESGPN to get a 50% deposit up to $1,000. That is the Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Edge Boost. Earn up to $750 per month on your sports gambling transactions. Head over to edgeboost.bet. Promo code SGPN. Last but not least, we're brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Get your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. Welcome, everybody, into the college basketball experience, baby. Oh, boy. Monday, February the 3rd, Moneyline Mac Top 25. Here we go. Can't wait to talk. A new poll just came out just a little bit ago, and we'll dive into it. Instant reactions. Bracketology season's upon us, and, I'll give out my top 25. But first, I'll introduce myself. I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin.
It's Mac tonight. Come on, make it Mac tonight.
Cheers, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good Monday. I know I am. Can't wait for this slate here tonight. And actually going to be boots on the ground in Williamsburg, Virginia. I'm going to go check out Bill and Mary versus Charleston, 8 o'clock tip, CBS Sports Network. Let's talk the Top 25 just came out, AP and coaches. I'll do the AP and then react to it and then give out mine. I got my graphic ready, my beautiful, beautiful graphic. Number 1, no surprise, was Auburn. 2, Duke, so no surprise there. 3, Alabama. Then came in Tennessee at 4. Houston followed it up at 5. Florida at 6. Purdue 7. Iowa State 8. Sparty 9. A&M 10. 11's Marquette. 12 is the Johnnies. 13, Texas Tech, the big win. 14 was Kentucky staying there. Missouri came in at 15. 16, Kansas. 17, Memphis. Then we got Maryland at 18. UConn at 19. They keep crowbarring them in there. Arizona at 20. Wisconsin at 21. Mississippi State at 22, despite a horrible week. Illinois at 23, hard team to gauge. And then Michigan 24. And Ole Miss comes out at 25. So, kind of first glance, the teams that I am not as high on as the AP was UConn and Memphis were the first two. Marquette a little bit as well. I'm not sure why they didn't drop a little bit more after losing at home to UConn. And then the other one, Mississippi State. I don't know how they stayed in the top 25 after that bad week or bad 3 weeks that they've had so far. So a little confused there. I thought Tennessee, I don't know why we have Tennessee over Florida. I know Tennessee beat Florida, but Florida also beat Tennessee by 30 this year. So just nitpicking there. I thought the rest of it pretty much was pretty accurate. I think Missouri a little bit underseeded at 15. I think that they have a better resume than Kentucky, and I'll talk about it here in a second with my top 25. But just those initial thoughts there. But first, let's talk about SGPN because the Squares Pulls for Super Bowl is here. $1,000 winner take all for all the final scored square. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/squares to sign up today. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/squares. We are also brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Get on over there. The big game is Sunday. No, not the Super Bowl. LaSalle, UMass. So get on over there. Get down on some action. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. That is DraftKings. And, of course, If you got a gambling problem, listen to my friend.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
All right. DraftKings Sportsbook, baby. Also brought to you by Rhythm. Head on over there, the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform. Build your model today. NFL picks, NFL props, college hoops, college football, NBA. It has it all. Claim your 7-day free trial today by heading over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. All righty, let's get into it. Show off my beautiful graphic. Where we go. Technology savvy over here. All right. So I did agree with the top 25 here. I'll go in reverse order. I put Drake in there. I threw Drake in there. They've won 8 in a row after dropping 2 random games, sitting here at 20-2, the first team in the country to hit 20 wins. We know what they did in the non-con, in the Charleston Classic. They beat K-State on the road in Kansas City. So I did throw Drake in there. I threw them a bone here. I think they are a top 25 team. I think that the mid-majors don't get enough credit here. And by the way, everybody, throw your comments. You think I'm an idiot? Head it over there. And I'll display as many as I can at the end after I get done with these rankings. So Creighton's red hot. I got them at 24 in the Big East. For a minute there, man, I was starting to get worried that Creighton wasn't going to be able to get to the NCAA tournament about a month ago. But since then, they're 16-6 now. They've won 8 or 7 in a row, 9-2 in the Big East. So really coming on. Wins at UConn. They won at Butler as well. Won at Villanova on Saturday. So they've been winning away from Omaha. So happy to see the Creighton Blue Jays get back on track. 9-2, big week upcoming. They got a game with Marquette. They can really get back in and maybe win the Big East regular season, which is wild. So considering where they were a month ago. So yeah, I got Creighton 24, UCLA at number 23. UCLA is another team that's back from the dead. The big fellas really come on and helped them along. Mara, defensively, they've got light years better over the last 2 weeks. They've won 5 in a row, 16-6, 7-4 now in the Big East or Big Ten. Sorry. So I think UCLA deserves a spot here with the ball that they've been playing and just really dominating teams. I mean, they haven't just been winning. I mean, they beat Oregon by 30. They beat Iowa by 30. They controlled games against USC wire to wire, and were able to hold on at the end, but they controlled those games. So winners of 5 in a row. That 4-game losing streak is a long, distant memory. 22, I got the Maryland Terrapins, who are also playing red hot right now. Kevin Willard and company, 17-5. They've won 4 in a row. They beat Wisconsin this week in their only game. They've been consistent this year, and that front court's really good with those two big fellow, Queen and Reese. So I like the guard play as well, and I think Maryland's a dangerous team come March. Michigan, I do have it at 21. Don't tell Beanick. Beanick's on suicide watch every time they win a goddamn game, but don't cover, for God's sake. 8-2 in the Big Ten. 16-5, like I said to Beanick the other day. I don't know what else you wanted from Dusty Mayo in year number 1. I think they've been pretty damn good with that front court of Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden. Guard play could be a little bit better, but overall, good year for Michigan, sitting at 8-2 in the Big Ten. Ole Miss is at 20, a little bit of disappointing as an Ole Miss backer the last couple weeks. Losers what now? 4 out of 5. They missed an opportunity to beat Auburn. Had that game to a 3-4 point game at the end. They've kind of been a little bit disappointing here recently, but huge opportunity tomorrow night against Kentucky to get another marquee win. At number 19, I got St. Mary's, and goddamn, this was supposed to be a rebuilding year for the Gales, and they're 10-0. Now they're 10-0 in league play. They beat Gonzaga. They have a 3-game lead with 8 games to go. They basically have won the regular season already. I mean, what else is there to say? They went on a 30-0 run against goddamn Santa Clara. They're 20-3. They already hit the 20 win column, and they've won 10 in a row. And, I mean, they lose guys in the portal, and they just reload. Unbelievable culture and unbelievable coaching job by Randy Bennett. Arizona comes in at number 18 for me. This team is red hot. Winners now of, 11 out of 12 since dropping that UCLA game. They had a hell of a week. They got lucky as shit, let's be honest. Let's call it spade a spade. Caleb Love makes a 70-footer to beat Iowa State, but then they go to Arizona State. No letdown, get a big win. Their only loss over that stretch is at Texas Tech. So Arizona has really righted the ship. Them and Creighton kind of remind me of each other, where at one point it was like, man, they don't have the resume to get to March, but they've really picked it up since January started in the calendar flip. So Arizona at 18, Marquette at 17. I mentioned I didn't agree with having the poll up there in the top 10-ish. They really have not played good basketball for about 2 weeks. I mean, they've been getting by Butler, the Villanovas, the Seton Halls, but in the last 5 games, they really have not played well. Or last 6 or 7 games. The last time they played well was Creighton at home at the beginning of January. So Creighton or Marquette, I still like them with Cam Jones, Joplin, Shaka. They got a big week coming up, though. They got the Johnnies and Creighton after dropping that UConn game. Now they don't really control their destiny in the Big East, but got opportunities here with the Johnnies on deck tomorrow night. At number 16, this team will never go away, Wisconsin. They just keep on winning. 17-5, 7-4 in the Big Ten. Some people say that it's not sexy, but hey, I think a lot of teams are signing for fucking 17-5. 7-4 in the Big Ten, to my point. They beat Northwestern on Saturday on the road. They're going to be a 5 or 6 seed once again come March. So the Badgers, consistent with big wins all over their resume. 15, everybody's favorite fucking team, Kansas. Listen, I know I see the chat saying Kansas is terrible. They got no shot against Iowa State. I disagree. I think they're going to beat Iowa State tonight. I don't think they're going to drop another game at the Fog. But Kansas doesn't really have a bad loss on their resume. Yeah, they've dropped games. Like they choked like crazy against Houston. That's still Houston. They choked like crazy against Baylor, even though you could argue that may have been their worst loss of the year with how shorthanded Baylor was when Edgecombe went out and then not having Roach and Love. Kansas is still solid, and that's why I think 15 is a perfect spot for them. They do have good wins all over their resume, too. They beat Duke. I mean, everybody's blowing Duke. Kansas beat Duke. They needed Hunter Dickinson to get tossed, and that's why they were able to beat Duke down the stretch, ironically. I don't know. They have been disappointing because they were preseason 1, and a lot of the same issues from last year are popping up with this team. A little bit soft, not good enough defensively. But I trust Bill Self here to get the most out of the talent coming down the stretch here. And I think that they will go farther than everybody else is giving them credit for, or thinking that they will. So speaking of a team that everybody was high on and not high on, this team is a shit show. They're so up and down. Kentucky, they went at Tennessee earlier in the week. They're sitting there. They got great wins, 7 quad 1 wins. They got like 5 top 10 wins, but hard to ignore that loss Saturday night against Calipari and a bunch of former players as well. I do think it is comical that Kentucky was so cocky and arrogant going into that game that Arkansas, there was no way Calipari and Arkansas could possibly beat them. Like Arkansas didn't have 3 starters that were on the Kentucky roster last year. I mean, the Kentucky arrogance is at an all-time high this year. Your shit does stick. You're not invincible. You've lost 3 out of 4. You're a little bit soft. You're banged up. It's been a good year under Mark Pope, year 1, but you got humbled a little bit on Saturday night, and I think I could see that coming from a mile away. There's limitations on this Kentucky team, but they have done a good job of winning some big games. Tennessee, A&M, Florida, Louisville, all of a sudden it's a pretty big win, and then Duke as well. So, I think 14. Kansas and Kentucky are kind of similar in a way where they'll look unbelievable one game, and then the next game you'll just be shaking your head. So, I think Kentucky 14 is a perfect spot for them. Fun team, but they definitely have their limitations. A&M at 13, my sleeper in the SEC. I don't know if they're going to get there because fucking Auburn and Alabama are so goddamn good and never lose. But A&M's been good. Wade Taylor and company. They got size. They're athletic. They guard the shit out of you. It's a good team. 17-5, 5-6-3 in league play. And Buzz's teams always seem to get better in February. So I think A&M is a sleeper to win the tournament. I don't think they can catch Auburn. I'm not sure anybody's going to be able to catch Auburn this year because Auburn seems invincible right now. And quite frankly, so does Alabama outside of one bad night against Ole Miss. So those two teams seem to be head and shoulders above. But A&M's in that next year, good team. Speaking of teams that are in that next year, Missouri is playing their fucking asses off. I mean, they beat both Mississippis recently. Their only loss was to Texas since the start of the new year, outside of getting drilled at Auburn. But everybody gets drilled at Auburn. To my point, this team is fun. This is a fun team. The transfer portal pieces have meshed well. Mitchell, Bates, Robinson, Perkins, they got an identity. They're tough. They make shots. They beat the shit out of Mississippi State on Saturday. I mean, that was wire to wire statement win for Missouri. Big fan of Missouri so far. At number 11, we got Sparty. Sparty finally dropped the game. They're 18-3. I'm not going to overreact now. They don't have the best wins in the world, but I do give them credit for beating who's been in front of them. And when you lose your first game since Thanksgiving, I'm not going to crush you here. So they were due for a loss finally. They do go down, but I do like their experience, their depth. Fun team with Sparty, an old Izzo-like team that likes to really guard the shit out of you. So I got Sparty at 11. Speaking of guarding the shit out of you, I got the Johnnies. If they could make a shot, they would be number 1, but they do have their limitations. 10-1 now in the Big East. St. John's and Sparty are the same team, which is hilarious because you have Izzo, Patino, both teams. St. John's is a throwback team. They just get after you defensively. Kadari Richmond hit the game winner on Saturday. I like R.J. Lewis. I like the big fella Ojo, however you pronounce his name. And quite frankly, they don't even really need Davion Smith. He's a nice luxury to bring in if they got to make some shots, but they get after you defensively with all that length and athleticism on the perimeter. So give me the Johnnies at number 10. Win of the week, in my opinion, in college basketball was Texas Tech getting it done at Houston because they threw out JT Toppin within 4 minutes and Grant McCasland. That was an absolute joke. The crew should be suspended, quite frankly. But it's Texas Tech, great win. They have ran the table since January 1st outside of one game, Iowa State, where they blew an 18-point lead. So they've been really, really good, really consistent. 8-2 in Big 12 play. I don't even know if they're a sleeper anymore, to be honest. I said they were the sleeper in the Big 12. I think everybody knows who the fuck they are now. They're old. They have an identity. They look like a North Texas team on steroids from Grant McCasland. He's got Texas Tech looking exactly like he did at North Texas, but at the Big 12 level. I think that this team could get to San Antonio. And quite frankly, they may even be able to win a national championship. That may be a little far, but I definitely think they can get to the Final Four. It's a fun team with a lot of depth and good guard play as well. Purdue at number 8. People don't like Purdue, but here they are, 17-5, 9-2 in the Big Ten. Consistent. That's what they do. They've won 9 out of 10 now since losing back-to-back before Christmas against Auburn and A&M. Braden Smith is a dog. Kaufman Wren's had a good year. Lawyers had a good year. It's a good program. I got nothing else to add on Purdue. They're just consistent as shit. So I got them at 8. I think that's a perfect spot. Iowa State, I'm not going to overreact to a bad week, even though I do think they're going to lose 3 in a row and lose tonight. But before that, I had them at number 2. So I do knock them. That was a horrible loss at K-State or against K-State at Hilton. They don't usually lose there. They had won 29 in a row at Hilton. That was kind of stunning the way they got drilled. But a little bit of a carryover from that Arizona game. I still like Iowa State. If I still had to pick a team in the Big 12 to win it all, I would take Iowa State out of all the teams even over Houston. But I think Iowa State will get back on track. They should be getting Momcilovic back as well here over the next couple weeks. So getting healthy, and I think Iowa State is just hitting their wall here in late January, early February, but they'll be just fine with TJ Otzelberger. Number 6, this is where I differ from everybody. Tennessee, I didn't get Tennessee being all the way up at 4. Tennessee hasn't really played good basketball over the last 2-3 weeks. I mean, they've lost 3 out of 5. They lost to Kentucky at home. They did play well at Auburn, but they lost at Vanderbilt as well. And I think we overreacted a little bit to that Florida game. So Tennessee, ironically, former Rick Barnes program. I just think Tennessee's been solid. I think 6 is where I like them right now, just because I don't think they've been playing at a top 5 level. But I love the Vols. I think the Vols can win it all, and I'd love to see that. So I could stick it to Colby and Noah on their ridiculous John Shire over Rick Barnes take. So yeah, let's go Vols. Go big orange. Houston at number 5 here. I don't really need to sell Houston. They had won 12 in a row, 13 in a row. They've been as consistent as anybody. They finally dropped one game to Texas Tech, but they've been a wagon. They won at the Fog. They won at UCF. They won at K-State. They won at Morgantown. They've won everywhere over the last 2 months. So Houston still the analytics darling, top number 2 in defense, and then top 10 in offense as well. So love Kelvin Sampson and his team. I don't know if they're as good as Iowa State. The record says they are, but I don't know if I would go that far. But Houston's been a nice turnaround since Thanksgiving weekend. At number 4, some people are out on this team. They're still 18-3. Florida. I think Florida can win it all. They got the good guards, Clayton, Martin, and Richard. Then they got all the depth in the front court. They got drilled on Saturday, but they had already drilled Tennessee. So a little bit of a wash. Toss it out. The Missouri home loss doesn't look as bad. Missouri's rolling right now. And then they lost at Rupp 106-100. So other than that, a perfect resume. I like Florida and the trajectory of their team. Number 3, I got Alabama. I mean, Alabama is, dude, this team's unbelievable. They're just flying under the radar because of how good Auburn's been. They're 19-3, and they've played maybe the hardest schedule I've ever seen anybody play. They go to Mississippi State and win. They go to Kentucky and win. They go to A&M and win. They go to South Carolina and win. They go to North Carolina and win. They beat Illinois on a neutral. They've beaten Houston. They've beaten Rutgers, Creighton. Kind of just take your pick. They've beaten basically everybody except Ole Miss, and they did lose at Mackey Arena. But, Alabama, Mark Sears and company, Grant Nelson, they might be the deepest team in the country with those guards, and they're going to be a tough out come March because that's a tough style to get ready for when you haven't seen it. At number 2, I got Duke, the nation's longest win streak, 15. They're 19-2, 11-0. They play in a shit league. I'm not going to lie to you, and this isn't me hating on the ACC. The ACC sucks. The more I watch each and every week, maybe they're tested one more time, maybe by Clemson. The Illinois game is a fascinating game at Madison Square Garden here at the end of the month. That's a great game for Duke, to be honest, because they need to play somebody that's got a little bit of a pulse, not Miami, Florida State, Wake, Stanford, and Virginia. So I'll go with Duke at number 2. Probably the most talented team in terms of Cooper Flag, the rim protection, and just the guards as well. They got a bunch of. They check all the boxes. Other than maybe they're not going to be prepared as the SEC or Big 12 or even Big 10 teams come March. But from an actual talent standpoint, Duke's as talented as anybody. So we'll see when we get to March if they're ready. I got my concerns. I got my John Shire concerns. I raised those the other night. I got to see it from Shire in March as well. I think people are too early crowning him as well. Number 1, if you don't have them number 1, I don't know what the fuck you've been watching. Auburn is number 1 in the country. They've won 13 in a row now. They've beaten who's who. They won at Ole Miss. They won at LSU. They beat Georgia. They beat Tennessee. Beat Mississippi State. Won at Texas. Beat Ohio State by about 50. Beat Carolina, Memphis, Iowa State, Houston. Their only loss is at Cameron Indoor in a game where back and forth, Duke got the better of them. But yeah, Auburn's at number 1. I mean, if you're arguing that, I think you're just trying to be rock the boat. So yeah, it's you got to have Auburn at number 1 with what their 11 quad 1 wins. And I know people will say, well, Duke beat them. Well, okay, they beat them at Cameron. What about the other 2 games where Duke lost to Kentucky and Kansas? Auburn's been perfect other than that. They have 11 quad 1 wins. What does Duke have? Like 4? If that, I don't know off the top of my head, but Auburn's resume is so far ahead of everybody else's. It's not even close. It's honestly not even a debate. I almost put Alabama above Duke, and I'm actually going to Benedict right now. I actually will have Alabama above Duke just because of their resume. Just looking at the resume again, I'll go Auburn 1, Alabama 2, Duke 3. The SEC is a different animal than the ACC. We saw when they had a challenge. It ended 14-2. The ACC had 2 wins. The SEC had 14. So, yeah, give me Alabama at 2 the more and more I look at this. So, yeah. All right, let's go over and get us paid because over here at SGPN, we are partnered with Edge Boost. You can earn up to $750 in cashback rewards for Edge Boost. Get on over there. That's edgeboost. Promo code SGPN. Edgeboost.bet. Promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with the promo code, baby, TCE SGPN, and tune in to the pregame show later tonight where we'll give out our Underdog Pick'em. Troy and company, I'll be at Bill and Mary, so I won't be there. Get on over there, Underdog Fantasy, promo code TCE SGPN. All right, let's go over to the chat version of it. When did I hit that ad? 25:45. Don't have Beanick to tell me when the ads are. All right. Let's throw this. Julio says, it's simple math. Houston was due for a loss. Thank you, Julio, for that. Appreciate you tuning in, my friend. I do agree. Houston was due a loss. Houston will be just fine. A lot of Duke hate, and I think it's warranted. It's always warranted with Duke. But yeah, I do agree. Duke's resume is not as good as these other teams, but I can't ignore their eye test. I mean, defensively, they're really good right now with the rim protection, their length on the perimeter. I mean, they made Carolina look like a JV team the other night. So that's why I do have them at 3. I did Benedict that. Hasty says Auburn would beat Duke by 20 at the Jungle. I don't know about 20, but yeah, double digits in my opinion. Mike Nemo, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, says Clemson's going to beat Duke on Saturday. If Duke's going to go down, it's going to be that game because the rest of these teams are terrible. Like I said, Florida State, Miami, Virginia, they're not touching Duke this year. So what else we got here? Barnes must have beat ECU or Colorado in some pivotal game for Colby. Yes, dude, that was one of the worst takes I've ever heard. Was the argument for John Shire in his 3rd year over Rick Barnes. Rick Barnes is a good damn coach. Yes, he's choked a couple times, but if you're taking Shire over Rick Barnes, you need to be drug tested. Frankie Cox says he hates Duke, Kentucky fan. Yeah. That was a big win for Kentucky. That was kind of Mark Pope's big win to put him on the stage. That was just big for the trajectory of the season because, I mean, they were getting off the Calipari divorce. And, yeah, big win here. Scrolling up. Sorry, I'm not very good at this. UConn and Kansas, Daquan. So I got Kansas at 15. They're kind of the middle team where I don't really know what to do with them. Their resume isn't bad, but they have underachieved for Kansas standards. I think we go a little far because we have expectations on Kansas to a higher degree. UConn, I don't know why UConn fans think they should not be ranked. Their resume is not a top 25 resume. They're 16-6 in an average Big East. They have a loss to Colorado, who has not won a game in the Big 12. They lost a home game to Creighton. They've also lost to Xavier and Villanova. They lost to Villanova. So, and Dayton, they lost to Dayton. They got blown out by Dayton. So they have a lot of holes on their resume. I know you say one bad thing and everybody say they suffer from Hurleyism, as I like to call it. And it's just like, oh, you hate on us, and they just lose their mind. There's no logic in stores, and sometimes you just got to put them in their place. They did have a nice win at Marquette. I will give them credit. Do I think Marquette's better than them? Yes. I think Marquette had a horrible night, and UConn played out of their mind, and Solomon Ball made shot after shot after shot. I think Marquette will win the rematch. I think Marquette will win in the Garden if they play in the Big East. So that's where my stance with UConn. I'm not hating on them. I'm giving you what I think is an accurate assessment of UConn, which UConn fans don't want to hear because they think they should be in like the top 5. Scrolling here, classic Zach. Zach back off his 0-3 night the other night. He's back. He must have hopefully got a loan or something, so he can go broke again here. So yeah, he's taking Iowa State tonight. Good luck winning at the Fog, Zach. Mississippi State, Rob says is not a top 35 team. I agree. I've been really disappointed. They're a one-man team, Hubbard. Dustin talks about Maryland jumping in. I agree with you there. UMass, LaSalle is going to be an instant classic. St. Mary's, dude, St. Mary's is a wagon, one heavy crown. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Gualo, I think he's trolling. He's suffering from Hurleyism. Rob says that New Mexico should be in over Drake. I thought about it, but they lost to New Mexico State at home, and they lost to San Jose State. So I thought about putting New Mexico because they do have the really nice wins at Utah State by 19, but they do have some really bad losses. I know Drake has the one really bad loss as well. But yeah. Cats won't drop it against Ole Miss. Yeah, we'll see, Frankie. Kentucky's got to start guarded, man. They got to get healthy. What else we got here? I should have starred these. I'm not very organized on my part today. Illinois top 25 team. Maybe. I don't know. I got my concerns with Illinois. I think that they're going to be fine, but they got a lot of moving parts. They got a bunch. I mean, they got guys that have not played a lot of basketball together. They have a lot of individual talent, but I don't know. The jury's still out. Nemo. Big one. Friday night. Slick Rick comes to stores. You know he's got that one circled. Never graduate. That's a hell of a name. I like that. Are we going to have a bracketology show? We're working on it. Being so goddamn busy with baseball, though, I don't know what the plans are with that. I will follow up with him and let you know on that. Rob talking about the value of head-to-heads. Missouri beat Florida convincingly. I think Florida has a better. Florida only has 3 losses though, and they annihilated everybody in the non-con. That's why you can't just do head-to-head, in my opinion. Yes, head-to-head does matter, but when you have 22 bullet points or data points, whatever term you want to use, I just think that head-to-head is hard to use. I mean, you can make the argument Texas Tech should be over Houston then with that. So I take head-to-head into consideration, but when you have 22 games and only one data point for head-to-head, and a lot of these teams have played one another, a lot of this is round robin, to be honest, with the way that the non-con was set up. It's just hard to use head-to-head for in my opinion. How do you judge a team like the Clayton? Good question. How do you judge a team like Kentucky with excellent wins, subpar losses, good offense, poor defense? It kind of sounds like the Calipari era, to be honest. What they were last year with Reed Shepherd and Dillingham. They beat a bunch of good teams, but then they would drop fucking puzzling games. I don't know, man. I think Kentucky's a team that could be that 4 or 5 seed that gets knocked off in the dance. Or they could be a team that goes to the second weekend, maybe even Final Four if they just make a bunch of shots. I think probably closer to the first option. I think Kentucky is more of a round of 32 team this year, just with how soft they are defensively. And they are banged up, but they need Lamont Butler back. I think he's very valuable, but I wouldn't hold my breath, Kentucky fans, if you're waiting on Kirk Risa to come in all of a sudden and make you a defensive juggernaut. So they are banged up. They got to get a little more healthy, but I still don't know how good Kentucky will be when they got all their pieces together. Joey says Florida would beat Duke in the dance. I agree. I think Florida would be better. Duke. So here's a scenario. I'm kind of just going off the rails here and freestyling. Hypothetical. I was thinking about this. Duke's a 1 seed. Duke's going to be a 1 seed. They're going to run the table. Maybe they lose to Clemson. Maybe they lose to one other team. They're going to be a 1 seed. They are going to be in for a dogfight in that second round 8-9 game against maybe an underseeded SEC team or an underseeded Big 12 team that's more battle tested than them. How does Duke respond to that? We saw that with Zion's team. They should have lost to UCF that year. I think that for Duke fans, the game I would fear is going to be that second round of 32. Right now, we'll go off bracketology. The 8-9 seeds, Utah State, Baylor, could they both beat Duke? Absolutely. Especially if Baylor gets all their guards back. They could beat Duke. Gonzaga and Vanderbilt, I think they can both beat Duke in a one-game setting. Both have size, athletes, experience. They're both fifth and sixth year guys. Duke's young. This is at St. Mary's. St. Mary's could beat Duke. St. Mary's could drag that game in the mud and beat Duke absolutely. How about Creighton? Could Creighton beat Duke with Kalkbrenner? Of course they could. They've beaten UConn time and time again. They beat Kansas already this year. Kalkbrenner, Ashworth, that experienced group. UConn's an 8 seed in the bracketology I'm using. That would be fascinating if we got a Duke UConn 1-8 matchup. Let's say in the East in Raleigh. I think UConn could beat Duke. I mean, UConn still does have talent. They could pop up and win one game, especially if Hurley gets the guys up. I mean, Hurley's been dominant in the dance. The Mountaineers, I don't know if my Mountaineers could win, actually, to be honest. But actually, yeah, they could. DeVries is the giant slayer. They've beaten Iowa State. They've beaten Kansas. They've beaten Gonzaga. But, yeah, that's just something I'm thinking about. I was thinking about that the other day during my walk. I was like, what if Duke gets an 8-9 matchup against a underseeded SEC or Big 10 or Big 12, mainly Big 12 and SEC team, just because those teams are tougher and more athletic than the Big 10 teams. I think Duke, that would be fascinating. Duke could be the 1 seed that goes down just because they lack experience and they won't be as tested come that time. So, yeah, that's all I got. I just wanted to throw that hypothetical out there with the 8-9s because there's going to be some good 8-9 games. If you're Duke and you draw a Creighton in the 8-9, if you draw a Baylor, oh my God, or you a Vanderbilt. I mean, those teams have grown men, 5th and 6th year guys. Duke, Cooper Flagg, it'll be his first NCAA tournament game. John Shire, still young in the coaching industry. He's been upset back-to-back years by more physical teams. Tennessee 2 years ago beat the shit out of them, and that's how they got it done against him. Rick Barnes. Let's go, Rick Barnes. And then the other one was NC State. I mean, they just bullied Duke last year. So Duke's going to be a very interesting team come March. But I freestyle long enough. I didn't know this would go 40 minutes. That's all I got, guys. This has been the college basketball experience. Moneyline Mac, top 25. Enjoyed this format. And reminder, pregame show, 6 o'clock Eastern. Make sure you get your notifications on and subscribe. And, for later tonight, Colby and I will be live for Tuesday slate. It's probably the later one because I'll be in about an hour and a half away at William & Mary versus Charleston. And then Colby will be on the main show in Beeson. So, guys, appreciate it. Rocking with us. This has been the college basketball experience. Moneyline Mac Top 25. You better start thinking about yours. And we are out of here.